I always go back to my children when they're like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't like it. I'm like, hey, here are your two options. You got this, or you can have this, and here's your secret third option. You get nothing. So take your pick. Um, Diane decides that she wants to get a job after spending 5 years as a stay-at-home mom. When she approaches her husband about her decision, she's told that it's a woman's job to take care of the house and kids, and it's a man's job to work and handle the money and bills. She stated that at the end of the day, I'm in charge and I actually stop. Screaming no for much. Yeah. Yeah. And it also, I think, goes again to financial control too. Is I work, I pay the bills. It's not your job to do any of that. So therefore he controls all of it. Yeah. That one's pretty. But women too, we talked about women kind of using this as a you never let me go anywhere, you never just because you work doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have things type of thing. Um, so it can be flipped for sure. I think this is the last step. I can't promise you that. I have no idea. Jane and Tanner have been together for a year. Jane's noticed that when Tanner is angry, he tends to lash out and throw things around the house, especially when Jane tries to make plans on her own or change something around the house without action. Tanner has never physically assaulted Jane, but she fears that if she gets mad enough, she would, considering the way she takes things and breaks them. Not intimidation. Oh, there's no. Okay. Um, I think there's a huge misconception that it's not physical abuse if they're not hitting your body, but throwing heavy things into a wall, or there's still a chance they don't have very good aim and they hit someone, children, yourself. Physical abuse is uh, intimidating people and making them think that it can happen to them. And one of my favorite eye openers um, is that when your partner gets super angry and they punch a wall or they slam the door, they're telling you that they're capable of doing that to you. They're not saying it, but he's swinging open that door or she's swinging open that door as hard as she wants to physically swing on you. It's a demonstration of what they could do to you. And you're scared. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so being afraid to leave because they will physically abuse you is one of the most common things that we see. And you try to work to understand, especially with DVHSD, getting into shelter is hard unless you have to be very clearly experiencing abuse. You turn people away only because either they're not actively fleeing or we don't have space. But there are people who are experiencing this that I think people don't always give full, recognition that this is also very dangerous. And it probably started out a lot more mild and then it escalated to, uh, yeah, that's a scary one. I think that could fall under physical and intimidation, um, threat upon. There was another one that yeah. Oh yeah, it should be. It 100% should be. I I haven't heard a piece like that here and I'm surprised, but they're there. They're out everywhere. Um, yeah, yeah. It's almost like claiming I'm gonna commit suicide if you don't, whatever. And yeah, can you process that? Can you see that as a crime? Well, you didn't pass. You didn't like get pushed out of the car. But DVHRT, I think that there's a lot of things, and I think that's what OPD is working on, and the prosecutors that are working on trying to recognize and acknowledge that all of these things, a wide spread of these things, is high risk. We just don't acknowledge it that way. The other thing is non-fatal segregation. That's an immediate, like, you got to get somewhere. Usually it's intimate partner violence where that occurs. I've seen a couple who were strangled by someone they just met on a date or someone they were barely have known. Um, where it would seem like there's not enough between them where they would be it's such an intimate act, like with your hands to another person. But it does happen, and that's the biggest thing that I worry about. They always get a CAT scan if they present at the hospital and they've been strangled. I've had someone tell me, "Well, I didn't lose consciousness. I'm fine," and I said, "No, it doesn't work that way. You gotta get the CAT scan." And the doctor asked her a question. She's like, "I blacked out like 2 times." I'm like, "You need to say that with a different tone." 2 times is too many. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yep. 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 That's physical. Yeah. Physical intimidation. Yep. It's also tricky if you both own your home or you both like rent the home together. That's my space, you know? Yeah, exactly. Um, and with officers, I think all Washington and a lot of other states, we are mandatory arrest or mandatory detainment in DD cases. So if they show up being told it's domestic violence, someone's going somewhere. Um, Usually they're let go the next day. Usually they learn more details, things like that. Sometimes they make the arrest and they're being told by this single person that it was the other person's fault. They see that I didn't, and kind of calm them down. It's usually like that. And so someone can be arrested and then as they learn more details, I probably should have taken the other person. Um, because obviously if they're physically knocking down doors and trying to get to you, that should probably be an indicator. Yeah. So something I've come to realize over the years in working with people, especially in crisis or people have severe mental health issues, I look at the power and control wheel as a point of guidance in that I took all of these categories and I kind of map them when I'm meeting with someone who has certain, um, I guess, certain triggers. So you can take that wheel and take all of these things that constitute what domestic violence is, and you can turn them on your head. So adaptive behaviors while you're in that really tough situation become maladaptive when you leave and find safety. Yeah, 2020. I wonder where Anisha is. Yeah, me too. She's really lost this thing like she unhappy with me. So yeah, I'm wondering already. Oh, yeah. Wow. There's a documentary that I found that chronicles I think it said like maybe it's they're easily intimidated, they're very passive. Um so that can come from physical abuse or any sort of thing that experienced. A person may be overly submissive or intimidated by men, especially. Um, that could even stem from their father or their grandfather. Um, I think it can be really challenging to work with someone who's so submissive because you need them to make decisions. And I think it can be perceived as difficult, um, but it's coming from a place that they struggle with. Especially here, we can't make those decisions for you, right? That's our biggest, we're here to support you. And that person never learned how to make decisions. Um, some of our survivors can feel really unimportant, and they just don't believe them in themselves, and they're usually struggling with like negative self-talk if they were emotionally. abused, verbally abused, undermined um, their talents and their important place in this world. You see a lot of that. Um, Persons unable to decide with or without support. It kind of goes back to male privilege. Like, I don't know what to do with these options, so I was never allowed to have options. Um, I think that's a hard one to identify. But that would be when you're reinforcing, like, you have these options and you're still very capable and ready to have a safe place to stay. And if you need any guidance, you can talk with me. A lot of that. A lot of making sure people believe in themselves. Um, People over explain their actions or feelings to you. I do the heck out of that one. I will text someone, hey, I can't come over. And it's because my cat puked and then my son ran down the driveway and fell, and you don't need to share all that. But I feel like I have to in order to make sure I'm not gonna get like blamed or in trouble. That I don't even know what we were talking about. Yeah, oh, 100%. It is exhausting. Um yeah, also gaslighting, like blaming the other person, you know. It, and when they're survivors and they're here, there is some of that. Like they're responsible for some of these things and they're blaming it on other people. Um, a person stashes money away or material away in case they need it later. Shelter. A lot of shelter will ask for toilet paper for their room, and then the next day ask for toilet paper, and then the next day ask for it, and then they switch to something else. And then you find that they're hoarding it in their room. It's probably because they didn't have access to all those basic needs. Um, they feel like they need something to bring with them if they need to run, that type of situation. Like I mentioned before, kind of tucking away some cash. I don't need it, but it's a comfort for me. Um, yeah. So just thinking about where those behaviors stem from and understanding that they were adapted in those really important moments, but now they don't really need to do those things. We're just helping them understand, their worth and that they have people here to support them. This is where it gets a little boring unless you're already bored. So we're just going to go through what constitutes sexual assault. That comes up a lot. Domestic violence. What makes it so? What makes them eligible for our services? Um, so it's defined as any unwanted physical or sexual interaction without someone giving consent. I think it's also it's the next one. So you can commit to what you're doing and you have previously consented, but you rescind it. Like, I changed my mind. I can't do this right now. There may be times that that person, you already started. You can't, like, we're doing it. That's still consent is can come and go as you want it to. Assault can occur in situations that involve a power and control dynamic. Um, the most common, I think I was talking about student teacher and how most boys are like, that's so awesome that you know. So there's already a power dynamic in assault. Um, there's no way to get away from it. So inmate and guard, they really have control over you. That one's really interesting. You do PREA, which is for the prisons. And I've helped someone who he was seeing a guard, which was not allowed. But they genuinely had feelings for each other, and when he got out, they were gonna have a relationship. But she was immediately terminated because there's no possible way, because of the power dynamic, that she could have consented to that relationship, and vice versa. He could not consent to that relationship because he was an inmate, and that's just not allowed. Yeah, you just can't do it. And even though they were both wanting that relationship, the law says no, you can't have it. And then there was action taken against them. Um, Child and perpetrator, um, there's a power dynamic, obviously. Good, not good. Vulnerable adult and individual, things like that. There's obvious control in these situations. It's not asserted by person in control. It's just the way we do things in our culture. You know, teacher has significant control over their class, things like that. And assault may involve sexual acts that were not agreed upon prior to the interaction or expressed as an act that the survivor is not comfortable engaging in. So it's kind of like to not be insensitive or gross. The interaction and contact between them is like a la carte. Like, I consent to these things, I do not consent to these things. And if you do something I didn't consent to, that's sexual assault. Kind of like the taking away that consent and say never mind. Um, you agreed to it at first, and now I don't. So that's allowed. That's fine. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yep. That's just if it's a minor. Um, and then even at 18, today, 18, it's still not allowed within the school. But then legal action is I don't feel like there's a lot of legal action. That's 18, 19, 20, and said like college and things like that. But it's an automatic, they cannot consent. Same with vulnerable adults. Um, there's a terrible, well done, but really sad um movie I think it's on. It's a documentary on Netflix that um someone is in a wheelchair, they're wheelchair down, they can't speak. I think they have cerebral palsy, and their older brother um, found someone to teach him how to use an assisted communication device so he could talk. And that person believed in her mind that he was speaking with her and that he was in love with her, and it still can't because he's a vulnerable adult and he cannot verbally communicate that he could with face machine, but she would hold his hand so he can physically ship. And then there's no way that you know that she typed that or he typed that. We use those a lot in special education, but people are kind of shying away from it because it's a form of control. So informed consent, there's a handout somewhere in your packet, but you don't need it. It's just a reference. So we use the acronym FRIES. S is for freely given. We want coerced into giving that consent. R is reversible. Like you said, you can never mind if you're right. Informed is an example of I'm okay with this, but not that. Informed of what you're kind of getting into, so to speak. Enthusiastic, a person that is saying yes because they don't know how to say no. So if you're sensing hesitation or um, see something that looks like maybe they don't want, just assume that it's a no go. And then specific, informed and specific is very much the same thing. Making sure that everyone knows the ground rules and we're very explicit and specific about what's a no and what's a yes. Um, because there is a defense and like I thought it was okay. They never said it wasn't okay. And it's really uncomfortable with this to go into this sort of relationship. Say, okay, before we start, we need to lay some ground rules. But it's important. Like, might not be the most romantic, but it's just you'll also find I think in those dynamics that you're laying that down for someone and they're like, what are you talking about? Because they have no idea about what consent means. Or probably never even said the word consent, you know? Yeah. 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 That's another, I should have put that one on there, but that's also like being enthusiastic about that. That one's hard to do because I'm thinking in terms of what, like, they look enthusiastic. I thought, and yeah, 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 yeah. And collision, in school, it's gone on for years and years and years in terms of children. It's kind of the age-old time that we choose when we emphasize choose, like, if you don't lose your virginity by this time, you're a loser. You know, you're not cool. You haven't had a relationship. And that's a form of coercion. Maybe not necessarily with the person that they were with, um, but coercion too could be again glorified that the partner, usually a woman, says, "You know you want to do this. Stop being coy." Like it's almost that male privilege situation too. I'm assuming that you're a man and these are the things that you want, so there's no reason why you should be saying no. Um, mhm, mhm. Wow. Yeah. Wow. That doesn't surprise me, but it says it does. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. 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 And so for all those, yeah, and those kids are like, oh, this is a case for an adult. And it's, yeah, sometimes grades too. Like, I know you got a C on this, so I'll give you an A if, and maybe that person gets punished for having bad grades, so they're coercing doing it because they want the A and they also don't want to get in trouble. Um, yeah, that's a big one. I wonder, I guess that goes to freely given as well. Like, you know for a fact that you want to do this, it's enthusiastic, and I'm not being asked into doing it. I don't feel like there's going to be a consequence if I walk away. Um, uh Yeah, yeah, that's so common. Yeah, yeah. We talk about, yeah, healthy. Yeah, yeah, joyful. That's good decisions. Yeah, that's a cool thing. Yeah, and that's the thing is like being able to walk away even if they're angry with you. We talk about boundaries and how to set boundaries. I think the one thing that's really amazing about Speak, which is a group of high schoolers that come once a week, once you get it going, they're giving the presentation in school. So it's coming from a peer, or someone who's older but not a stupid grown up, and that someone they can look up to. And when you see people talking about that openly, you start to feel okay talking about that openly. Kevin used to be the prevention specialist, and then he ditched me for management, but whatever. Um, he had at the end of the presentation, he gave them a piece of paper, and there's a so you can color on it, you can write on it, you can ask questions, whatever it is. You'd be surprised about those questions coming in. The one that kind of stuck with me the most was if you're abused by your parent, where you go, who you go, that type of question. And that was hard. And there was no name on it. So there was no reporting it, mandated reporter. So we didn't have any information. Yep, yep, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another big thing about speech too is those kids, they're at school every day. They go to different high schools. We're almost like reaching out with our webs through those children to spread that message. And when they're confident about talking about those things, the hope is that it spreads through the school too. Again, like yeah, right? Mm, cool. It was no, they got a better opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, we do intervention, it's not just youth. You go into schools and all those things, but we go to side. He has gone to St. Martin's, we've gone through churches, um, just spreading word for everyone. Yeah. Rosie's Place on State, I don't know if you guys we do a workshop every quarter with them. Just talking about boundaries and consent, the usual. You have to. Hmm. Yeah. That that happened. Yeah. I remember, and I really enjoyed working with Sophie, um, because yeah, because she was super interactive during the whole presentation. She was having so many aha moments about, oh, that's what happened. Yeah, she was pregnant and she understood that that was being used against her. Like, he's gonna take the baby as soon as he's born, and then she even made a connection between what she was experiencing with her mom. Um, she was just very self-aware, and it was evolving, and I think she realized, I think she said too, "I'm gonna be a mom. I need to get my stuff together because I have to take care of a kid, so I need to know what's right and what's not right, and I need to set a good example," which is like the best goal of what we do is just she was like processing it as we went, and you could see like her wheels turning in her head, and it was yeah, it's in 2 sessions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was cool. I not see my heart singing here. That's a good. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, Rape trauma syndrome. So it's not a term that's thrown around a lot, and it's a term that was, I guess, coined when people were studying um, rape and assault victims, usually rape, and how they kind of track their behavior after the fact. That's the study that they did with willing participants. Um, and they found that it's not a collection of symptoms that appear all at once. It's really hard to distinguish rape trauma syndrome or like maybe this like depression, and then they mention it, lots of different things that um it, it's a pattern, but it's a really loose pattern. So Dr. Ann Burgess and then her partner was Dr. Wholesome. They noticed this behavioral because they were studying it, and they just noticed that it was a varying pattern. Um, but they all like they faced the same symptoms, just not same points in time and not all at once. Some or the other. Sometimes it's a timeline of symptoms. So full on, these are the symptoms. Um, and they, like I said, they can come and go, or everyone can have half or a few and not the others. So there's shock. Um, I usually refer to that or think of that as disassociation, which is down here too. They're just kind of stuck processing it and they're trying to work their way through it. Along with disassociation, people think of that as like my brain's off right now. I have to go somewhere in my brain. But it could be physical as well. Like they sometimes depression can be so bad you physically can't feel your thought. Like you're just numb in every sense of the word. Um, Self blame and guilt pretty much powering control issues. Fear it's gonna happen again. Those sometimes irrational thoughts of like there have been people that no, he's gonna come through my window. No, he's gonna pop out of he has a tracker on my car, and sometimes that's true, but not always. In that situation, I like to just help, like, safety plan. Like, let's protect the car. This is, do you have um, your location on in your Snapchat account? Do you share an Apple, with them? Because you can get into phones that way. So just helping them feel like they're getting a bit of their control back. Humiliation and embarrassment. It's just kind of like the first video we watched. Like, I cannot believe that happened to me. I don't want to tell anybody about it. And then difficulty concentrating comes from trauma responses in your brain that you just have no control over. They come from your lower brain. Oh, do you guys do that yet? The brain with the really okay. So yeah, the bottom part of your brain, downstairs brain, you have no way to control you struggle with your concentration. It's a response that you can't necessarily stop. That's where cognitive behavioral therapy comes from. You can't take it away, so you can kind of cover it with a blanket of um, tools to help keep it at bay. So you're cognitively recognizing that it's happening, that you have this behavior, and you're managing to find some coping skills and some tools that you can use to kind of calm yourself down. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 That's a big one. And that's why, I mean, I give it a good 95% that shelter clients are usually addicts. A bit like 90 to 95. There are a few that aren't, but it stems from somewhere they're either coping or they, that's how their life was, so that's just how it continued. Um, yeah, it's a good one. This one is about talking with people in your life about the situation. It shouldn't make you too uncomfortable, but it's emotional. Uh, but fair warning, attack of pain.
I know the answer to this.
You're supposed to read it out loud.
What's one experience you wish I never had?
I mean,
Yeah.
and I still can't believe that, like, I truly don't remember this, or like, you really telling me, but that experience where you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
And having somebody do that to you, I would want to take that away. Because nobody deserves that, especially not my best friend.
Anytime I think about that, especially now that you're my fiance, like in my head, it's drilled in like I need to protect you by any means necessary.
Mama and Papa, of course, weren't educated enough to know what kind of help I needed after something like that happened. So I took that as like, okay, I need to shut up and be quiet and forget that it ever happened.
When we first started dating, it was really hard for me to grasp and to think about. I still feel anger about it. Even though it's not my experience, it still makes me angry that you had to deal with that, and sad.
I didn't know how to ask that from you because I don't want you to relive that.
Yeah.
So I've always been very hesitant to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, our pleasure of sex that we have a right to was stripped from us. So it takes time, I think, to regain what is rightfully ours because it was taken away,
You're in a position as a survivor where you're trying to convince someone that you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the worst. That's the worst.
I lost friends in high school because they were like, "What? This is what guys do,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel sorry for you. Now I can say it, that this is what you think.
They asked me if anything happened to me, and I lied because I don't know, I didn't want to deal with it. So I kept that pretty internal for a very long time until 7 years of therapy, finally made it okay to talk about it and not cry.
And I think I didn't really tell anybody, And it's still just a really difficult thing that I'm trying to process and unpack. There's a huge block with pleasure
in general, and pleasure of life, like genuinely enjoying life, and then physical pleasure.
It changed me. I think when something like that happens to you, you lose part of your innocence and your childhood. You know, I wonder like who I could have been if that didn't happen to me.
I put on a very confident man, but inside there's a hurt child.
Yeah, I think sharing everyone's story and accepting it for what it was and saying, oh, whoa, that was like sexual assault.
I would want to take that away from you.
And that was like technically rape.
Yeah.
It took me a while to realize that it was that word that was defining my story, and also that that's what it was, because at first you're like, that doesn't happen to me. You know, you always think it happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me, and then it happens to you, and like, this is impossible. I can't.
Well, if it was something I did, or what I say, or was I too pretty, or why did I have to wear like a stuffed bra?
And I think that had I not kept those hurts inside and let them fester for so long, maybe the path would have been differently.
Like, why me? Screw this. I'm so angry and so hurt and so frustrated with the entire world. And
this is a difficult question. And the reason I find it difficult is because you wouldn't be where you are right now doing exactly what you're doing, who you are with the understanding you have affecting the people around you as you do, without living your life exactly as it was lived up until this moment.
There's no part of me that wants to say I'm grateful for it, but I am really grateful for how you handle yourself and how you have been through that process.
I feel like even though you're really vulnerable, you're so strong in the way you talk about it.
But you give such hope when you speak because of what you've been through and how you've dealt with it, because not everybody deals with it the way you do.
I don't think any two people deal with it the same.
No. Someone else ruined my life. That's how I see it, right? Someone else ruined my life. But I'm not going to let this actually ruin my life, because we don't deserve it.
Either I can be a victim or I can be a survivor. So I want to be a survivor. And I don't want this person to rule how I live my life.
And not to be like super silver linings rah rah, but it is one of the reasons why I am the person I am. And I really like the person I am. Most of the time.
And I feel really conflicted in myself right now. I feel very conflicted about what I'm saying, because of course I wish these things had never happened to you and all the painful things hadn't happened, but also that's how we've grown into these amazing women that we're becoming, you know.
We don't get to choose our wounds in life. Some people have it even worse, and you're fucking brave for being here.
in some ways, I'm really grateful to have come out on the other side and have the perspective that I have, and have this experience that really, I think, gives me a lot of empathy for what it means to be a woman in the world today.
But you're right, it's a part of me. And what happened with is a part of me.
And the process of going through the trial is a part of me.
It's all a part of me.
Yeah.
And I'm awesome. So.
You're awesome.
It's a good way of looking at it. Thank you.
Abuse is never okay. But it's okay to talk about it.
I felt like that one was really important because you, as an advocate, can walk into the hospital, walk into someone that you're working with, and they will not talk to you, which is totally okay. They haven't processed it, they're not ready. or they have kind of like unusual behavior. Um, they're in calls where someone has thrown things around the room, or they've been hostile, threatened. We're going to talk about it this week. Don't risk being hit with it. Um, I've been on calls where people are making jokes. This person is naturally super sarcastic. I actually really enjoyed working with her under different circumstances, I would hope. But she was just cracking jokes and like being super funny with people. Her family was there and she went to go do her cat scan, and her sister had told me that she had said that she feels bad about making jokes and being sarcastic, and she feels like people think the worst of me because I'm not taking it seriously. So I just made sure to go over trauma responses with her so she didn't feel guilty or weird about, joking about the office while she's getting an exam done. And then on the other end of that, we may get trauma jumped on. Like they might just be boiling over and they just need to get it out. Um, this is all good. And that's what we're here for. Um, it's probably one of those reasons that it's a strange response in some people's eyes, but we know it's trauma. They're not going to say anything, and they're gonna say everything. Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And that goes back to consent in our program, which I'll talk about. But we'll show up to help somebody, and even if they're too tired, even if maybe they're a vulnerable adult, maybe they're under the influence of something. If you don't feel good about that consent that they gave, just don't. Better safe than sorry. Um, if they even come back, if they want you to come back, if they don't even remember you were there, just go back and check on them and see if you can help them at that point. Um, yeah. So going on a call, I do a rotation on the calendar for people to um, shadow, but it's really unpredictable. So they've been able to shadow. If we get the call and you respond great, sometimes you just don't get the calls and you can't shadow for a while. So I'm gonna go through this. So when you're on call, you just want to kind of keep things ready on standby just in case you get a call, especially at like 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, and you have to get up and put clothes on and find your keys and all of this. So I always make sure that my phone's on and that the volume's turned up. I've made that mistake many a time. Yeah, the doctor call. Yep. Did you turn the volume on? It's always on. No, it was. Have an outfit set aside, and then kind of have a knowledge of where you're going. Like you don't want to be getting lost and making U-turns for 20 minutes. It happens. I do it all the time. But so we serve St. Pete and then multi-care in Lacey. And those are the only 2 hospitals that we serve. We don't get many calls from Lacey. But if you need to program it into your phone or like drive by it and see when you're not on call and check it out, it's always a good idea. So when you're on call, these are other that you should have. Some people keep them in their car, in their trunks. I keep a couple in my trunk. They'll always have a SARP bag, which is a bag of just goodies and things they may need when they leave there. They're in that cabinet back there. It says SARP or sexual assault cabinet. All the paperwork you would need is in there. But this is another reason why we get a lot of houseless people if they, for whatever reason, didn't get assaulted, that they need resources. Like that's just what it is. And we never say no. Even if they don't consent, we give them this bag. I usually always have a toothbrush and toothpaste in here, fuzzy socks, some crayons, and a notebook, yada, tissues, all just little things that maybe they're bored in the hospital and they can draw, or is being houseless. I need water. I need a new pair of socks. They don't always know what's in the bag, but this is going to be really helpful for me. Thank you. So this is something I just keep 1 or 2 in my car. You're more than welcome to. They just give it in all what they may say no, but you don't need consent to leave a bag with them. Um, that that one. Um, the other one is just having a notebook with you and a pen or a couple pens. I've done that many a times where they're signing consent and I'm trying to fill out paperwork. If you only have one pen, that makes it kind of weird. So a couple pens, notebook, whatever you need to just note. Um, so who's calling you? It will come from to your work phone, and it'll most likely be from helpline or a coworker's number. People that work helpline will call you to let you know you have to go. Sometimes from their cell phone, sometimes not. Um, Perfect. Save numbers in your work phone as soon as you can. Just enter them all at once. Um, there's still numbers for me that pop up that I'm not sure who it is. Um, and then they will tell you. Yes, 999. Okay, I should answer it. And the hospital, they get brought to one or the other. They'll get the call and they'll say, hey, we got a call. They don't tell you if it's a man or woman. They don't tell you what it is. Something you just don't even get a room number. Um, and they will you just go, the hospital and you get there and then the rest you don't know. You have to ask. It's just like desk or things like that. Sometimes, because our goal is to reach the hospital by 45 minutes, sometimes they'll call and say, hey, um, there's a call, but the FNE won't be here for 2 hours. You just take your hour and you don't want to go too early, but we do like to be there before the nurse examiners to make sure they know their rights as a survivor. Ah, yeah, yeah, it is. I think they have been, but I put a list of people that will need the shadow. I think they take their name off. So that if they get a call, they go to that list and just call down it, to see if someone can shadow. It's on there for whatever call. If they call you and they're like, they want shadow and you can't, that's fine. Just, I hope for 2 opportunities to shadow, 2 opportunities that consent to shadow. And then we can talk about it, see how you're feeling. If you want to shadow more, go for it. If you feel ready to hop in, I can put you on the computer. So you're going to get to the hospital, either St. Pete's or ED in Lacey. Find a parking spot don't get a timed parking spot where you're going to have to move. Get all the stuff that you need, the paperwork, and you go through the emergency entrance for both. With parking, I always say, you're always going to have to park pretty far away. It's always busy, but make sure you're prepared if, there's some unsavory characters that can be about. So I always have my shoes out or have my phone out, but if I can, I park near lights or somewhere that I can um, feel safe. And also, there's so much to be said about gathering yourself before you go in. Take time for yourself if you're feeling nervous or unsure. Make sure you can go over your checklist and say, okay, I have to do these things. But energy is contagious. So if you walk in and you're regulated and that person's dysregulated, you can help them. You don't have to say anything. It just kind of radiates between you. So people like to think that, and sometimes that's very great. So you're inside the hospital. If you want to check in at the front desk, um, you just let them know I'm an advocate on SafePlace. They typically know, but they have high turnover. So sometimes they don't know who we are, why we're there, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction and where you're going. It might take a while. You might be sitting in the lobby. Maybe there's a line at the desk, or maybe the survivor is not there yet, anything like that. So I usually give them 10 to 15 minutes, and then I check back in to make sure they didn't forget about me. But it's especially since he's so busy. So yeah, and check back in. Sometimes the survivors are waiting in the waiting room too. Yeah, yeah. And so I've had, yeah, yeah. Isn't that weird? And it happened to be you. I'm like, why are you making her sit out here? Her mom was there. But so I got there, and you have to be careful because you can explain who you are and you can get consent. You cannot talk about anything. It's HIPAA. We're not supposed. You don't adhere to HIPAA. We do. It's just different. But hospital staff too. They're like, you can't do it in a public space. But they start talking, and you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. But that's on them if they want to talk about it. So we just wait with them for a room. sometimes they'll change their mind and say never mind and they'll leave. We can't listen to say. And if they're in the lobby, most of the time you won't get consent. They're like, I don't even, will you again? Wait, because it doesn't make sense who you are until we're in the heat of it. What's gonna happen? Yeah. 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 It is. And it's intimidating for us too because if we don't have information and we're walking in, who's in there and what happened? Is this gonna be kind of a open and shut call, or am I gonna be here for a few hours? Or, you just I've gotten there with no information and the person was in the ICU. I've got there and the person wasn't there yet. You just never know. Um, yeah. 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 Which one? Yeah. Right. What's going on? And that's something I'm gonna be very frank. St. Boots is very difficult and they're not always great. Um, they'll call us late because they forget. They won't be able to tell you when the SME is going to be there. They're challenging, but they're very busy. So I always try to give the benefit of the doubt. But I am always in contact with the head SME who has that relationship with them, and I let her know like, hey, it's been really bad at St. Pete's. I don't know what's going on, and she'll call them up and whip them in the shin. So always knock. Usually the curtain's on because they want privacy or they're sleeping, and wait for a response. If there's no response, maybe check in if there's no solution, give it another knock. Um, we're working to reinstate control and autonomy. So if we're just walking in there, if they're already feeling out of control, it's just going to add to it. Like they're in control in this whole deal. I'm here in the passenger seat. Um, and there's always nurses and doctors and people, sometimes police officers coming in and out. You're just another person that's barging in and out. They usually don't knock, but we want to make sure that we're asking permission to come in. Introduce yourself, let them know you're an advocate in SafePlace. Always mention that you're not affiliated with police and you're not affiliated with CPS or the hospital. You're just here to help them navigate things. Give them a little bit about what we do. They'll either consent or they don't. You're just there for support, whether it's emotional or resources or what you need. I always have an opening greeting or sentence going in the back of my head because I don't want to walk in and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, yeah, nice to meet you. You having a good day? No. No. And that's such a like reflex for us. Like, oh, how's it going? Listen terribly. So I always just walk in, hi, I'm an advocate. My name's Sarah. Can I come in? Explain to them what's going on, and just kind of let them do it. But it's not the end of the world if that comes out, especially because it's automatic, but it definitely isn't. That's that. And then remind the survivor. It's on the consent form that they sign. They rarely read it. Let them know that they can receive services at any time. They can suspend their consent from us. They can take away consent from the FNE exam. Everything is their choice, and if this will stop, we stop. So consent, just if they don't consent to services, we leave. If we go there and they don't consent, we leave the bag. If they're sometimes people will be so escalated that they will immediately say no and they don't even explain who you are. I've waited like 15, 20 minutes. I feel like they were so escalated they didn't even hear the lesson. They didn't even, so I want to make sure they get a chance to really understand who we are. And if they say no, you might get, I already told you no, what the hell are you doing? Just go, but especially with the elderly, I always give them a couple minutes and I reassure to make sure or let them know, like, I'm here to support you. If you don't want me here, I can offer you this bag and just know that we have some other resources for you. So if they do want to move forward with us, just make sure that we're getting that consent signed. But it's a tricky process, so you don't want to interrupt and say, hey, what's your birth date? Like, SMEs, the examiners will usually have a ton of stickers that have their name, so their birth date, their gender. I always ask for one because I can fill all that out and not have to ask them. And they're going to be asked the same questions over and over again. So I just kind of listen in and write down what's being said as I go so that I don't have to keep asking the same questions. So just kind of pop in when you can with questions if you have them. And sometimes I wait for other people if they're like, you're being discharged, and then it's going to be open out. So we just finish all that up at the end. Um, yeah. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Yep. As long as consent sign and you have their name, you have that thumb sticker, that's a good start. And if they remember if they want you to have that, um, always put their emotional needs first. I'm not gonna be tripping if I get a form that doesn't have a lot of information on it because I know it's likely that you just couldn't get the information. I'm not unless it keeps happening over and over again and I'm like, "Oops, there's the paperwork. I never fill out business." We'll talk then. And then you can leave the paperwork in my box. We put it in a large envelope for confidentiality, and then I'll enter it. Or helpline sometimes enters it. Lots of paperwork, so always get the consent. If they consent, great. Just a quick signature. That's all I need from you right now. Just to make sure that you know that they did consent in the beginning. So if they take it away and they say, I didn't even want you here, you can say like, well, I had consent. If it ever comes up as a problem, I had consent. Here it is. Um, the contact form, again, you just listen to the FME as they gather their information, and you can usually get everything on that form that you need. You can ask that FME for sticker fee. A lot of people do it, so they're not going to look at you as your fee. Um, ROIs, release of information for referrals. We don't often do those on such calls. Um, after they leave the hospital, the only thing that we really do is a follow-up call to check in. Sometimes there's situations where, like, okay, this person might need housing or this person might need some help if this was the trial. I know Kevin's got on a call and realized that the person was houseless or new to their apartment or something like that. So you brought her sheet as evidence. Okay. Yeah, we have all sorts of things back there. Sometimes, like, I can't give them my keys. I don't have any other sheets. We have everything there. Or I'll Yeah, we also have gift cards option. So yeah, ROIs, I really try not to do them in that moment, but if they have a person in the room who's gonna be hearing all this stuff, you need to fill out an ROI so that we're stating that it's okay that there's your responsibility. Um, so the client follow-up form, a lot of the time people say, okay, would you want me to follow up with you in a couple days? That's no, I'm fine. But that form, if you ask, like, yeah, that would be nice. Just get their phone number or their email and their name. I've gotten some that has just their name and I can follow up with them, but I did give them my card. They texted back and forth and we got the resources she needs. Um, this is just for me, if you guys could. Um, if it's a new client who's never been with us before, just put a little star on the CCF so I know I have to make them a profile. That could come in the form of like, have you ever used our services before? They might just say, oh, who are you? I don't even know who you are. Um, and then, yeah, wait till they're regulated, kind of read the room without getting that information. We can offer a hotel. A lot of people take us up on that for the night. They're probably houseless or they're overwhelmed and don't want to go back to their house because there might have happened there. Their house may be a crime scene. Like, you just don't know. So you offer them that hotel for the night. Um, you would call the manager on duty or call the helpline and they'll call us and they set up the hotel. It's no cost to them. We can also get them a tab there. We can get them a tab phone. It doesn't necessarily, it's just getting them out of the hospital and sending them somewhere safe, like local, that's in the Cali. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's okay to get significant discounts and significant, like a lot of it's free because it's the work that you do. Same with hotels. You get a huge discount on those. So during a call, you could be doing any of these, answering their questions, um, letting them know they have rights and reminding them. One of the biggest things, especially since these being kind of difficult, they can be really hurt and kind of insensitive during these situations. It's likely because they're so busy, but it's still not okay. So many a times we're advocating for this person, making sure that they're feeling respected and that they have dignity. Um, I've had Marie, kind of an advocate. She's told an FME, we need to take a break. And that person was very angry with her, but we don't care. She needs a break. Um, so prompt care too. I've had someone discharging even use for 3 hours because the doctor never came in to give you okay. Arranging services at hotel, CAD, could be a gift card. $50 gift card, it goes to a couple different places, but for food or food that makes you feel better, whatever. Um, Emotional support. We're helping take on some of their stress during really hard questions and situations. We can help with police reports and interviews if they're okay with that happening. Or if they're not ready, they can come back and say, do you have any help with? And then you guys will be able to help. We're going to help them make informed medical decisions. If something, if they say yes to something and you're like, oh, just, I'm not going to give my 2 cents, then I'm going to say, okay, this means that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe they don't even know what it means. Like, wait, what? I changed my mind. And then like, that's a big one. I always ask during that call at some point, do you have a good place to go? Do you want to talk about what to do after this? Things like that. And then leaving. So just make sure you can leave at any time. They can say no and you're out the door. They can say yes and you're there for 20 minutes and you change your mind. Or you could be there for 5 or 6 hours. Most of the time it's like 2 or 4. Um, and you want to make sure you have all your paperwork. You want to make sure that the survivor is knowing and comfortable with you leaving. They have everything they needed and they say, yeah, fine. If you need to leave abruptly, if you don't feel safe, if maybe you're super activated, if you just, that's okay, just let a nurse know, like, hey, I'm leaving, but we're going to get someone else to come. And call helpline, we'll get someone else to go. And then just make sure the survivor's comfortable leaving. Or they're being discharged. You can help them all the way through being discharged. You can walk them to a cab, walk them to their car, get follow-up information if they want a follow-up call. Make sure they have a safe place to go. And whatever the case may be, we ask that when you leave a call, you call helpline back and let them know that you're leaving and that you're safe and all of those things. Which is still after you leave. I guess just make sure you're engaging in self-care and taking time for yourself. Just because it can be really hard. So just prioritize that. If you ever need a place to vent or process taking, I'm always available in my office and the managers are always willing to do that too.